Welcome to the Northeast Divide podcast, and a huge thank you for taking the time to listen to us again. I'm John Lane, and I'm joined by Anth, and we're going to be reacting to Sunderland 0, Newcastle United 3, and discussing all of the fallout from the first Weartime derby in almost 8 years. We're also going to discuss the transfer window briefly and preview Newcastle's home game versus the world champions Man City and Sunderland's massive trip to Ipswich on Saturday evening. I know I mentioned this last week, but once again, my big ask is that now you've started listening, please listen until the end, as this will help us grow as we go. And I'd also like you to leave any feedback you have from the podcast if you have the option to on your apps. So what did you like? What do you want less of? What do you want more of? And all that kind of thing. And again, that'll just help us improve and provide the content that you want to hear. So we're going to move on to the football from now. Anth, tell us this, and I'm trying to say this without sounding too smug. How are you feeling about the match? A couple of days. We've had a couple of days for it settle in. How do you feel about it?
A little bit deflated, if I'm being honest with you. The golfing class told, basically young boys against a well-established Premiership side with. And if I'm being honest with you, I don't think Newcastle got out of first gear. If they had have done, could have been more. Yes, there was mistakes made by individual mistakes, but yeah, the difference told. The difference told with the class, and unfortunately, yeah, we lost, and the better team sees through gritted teeth. The better team won.
Yeah, and I find it hard to disagree with that. I think it was no, but it was it was very clear that we were quite comfortable. And I felt just before I'd messaged one of the other lads just before we scored saying we just need a goal here and the game's done. I felt like it was, we were in that much control, and we haven't looked like we've been in control for a while. Newcastle, we've had some really, really bad results, some games where we just not kind of turned up. And I think the impressive thing for me was the composure, the character, and the execution of what we needed to do. I felt for Ballard a little bit, actually. I think, I mean, take away the own goal, take away the penalty he gave away, take away, the debatable should he have been booked, potentially sent off. I mean, depending on who you talk to and what their opinion is, if you take those things away, he actually was played all right. But I think they're the three key things, aren't they, in the game? And you can't, you're not going to give him an 8 out of 10 when he's had that much impact. But I felt for the kid, because he looked like one of your better players. I mean, what positives do you think there were to take from Sunderland perspective?
Well, defensively, we've been pretty sound this season in the Championship. We've had a few come back from injury, so Ballard has been pretty much faultless this season, apart from Saturday in the Championship. He's been outstanding, and so as Trey Hume. Unfortunately, individual errors cost us to a certain extent. Ballard, I thought, was great, apart from obviously the own goal and the penalty which he gave away. Hume was caught out on numerous occasions down the flank, which I was surprised about. And the thing is, you had the quality. Yes, we had the fight, and obviously you tried to exchange shirts on the pitch at one stage, which I thought, leave it till after the match. But I thought Dan Neil did okay. I thought he did well. I thought they handled the occasion very well. I thought they might have been a little bit overawed, a bunch of young lads, but I thought they stood up to be counted. But again, just we didn't have the quality. We were faffing about with it at the back. You can't do that against a Premiership club. You can in the Championship. We would have got away with it in Championship, but we didn't on Saturday.
Do you think they were asked to do that though? Like, do you think that was his tactic coming into it? Because there's, again, I'm looking around and there's a bit of discourse about the manager. I mean, what is his fourth game, and already already people are like finding an excuse to have a go at him. But like, is that a tactical decision? Like, let's play it from the back and play our normal style.
Mowbray did the same. But it seemed to have more positive results. Like I say, I think it was due to the opposition on Saturday. Ekwa has been another one who's been consistent this season in midfield, and that individual mistake again, it was a shocker. It was a shocker. So there was a lot of sideways, a lot of backwards. There wasn't a lot of pace. Jack Clark went from 20 million quid's worth to 20 pence. I don't know what happened there. So yeah, the jury's still out on him for me, the manager, but I'll give him a bit more time. And best of luck to Tony Mowbray with regards to his appointment at Birmingham City. I think he'll do really well there. And yeah, we had the conversation last week. I was upset at the way it was handled and the way he went. But good luck to him. All the best. I'm sure he'll get a good welcome back at the Stadium of Light when Birmingham City come. I don't know if they've visited this season, but yeah, when he does come, he'll get a good reception.
Yeah, I think he's. We talked about it last week, didn't we? Very briefly, and you said that it sounded like that was the way, and I think that was a sensible way for Birmingham to go. They probably shouldn't have got rid of the first manager before they brought Rooney in, to be fair. But I think this is It seems like a sensible appointment, doesn't it, from the outside for Mowbray? And he's done a decent job at Middlesbrough. He didn't do a bad job with yourselves. Got you probably into a playoff race last year that many would have thought you wouldn't have been involved in, and now that I'm assuming is the minimum expectation, or at least kind of what fans want to see. I suppose that's my question, kind of coming out of this. Where is it you see your season going from here, and what's the goal going to be?
I would love to see us there or thereabouts in the playoff positions again. Sixth place would be a wonderful achievement, a massive achievement. Again, I think we're slightly overachieved last season. I think we were expected just to sort of be around mid-table. So we did overachieve last season. It is expected this season. I think the fan base are expecting it. Realistically, how we do against Plymouth, how we do against Ipswich, on Saturday, it'll be a big judge of character for them. How they bounce back, will it affect them in the league? Obviously, Ipswich are flying, so I'll wait and see as to what happens on Saturday and take it from there. I don't know. I'd love to see us get in the playoff places, but I think it might be a little bit of a bigger ask this season. It depends on Jack Clark. Apparently, West Ham are interested now, so we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, and we'll get onto that, no doubt. In this pod, just kind of on Newcastle and what we did. I think we've touched on it. I think it was men against boys. I think Joe Linton in the first half made a massive difference when he came off second half. And as good as a player Miley is, he just doesn't have that same physical presence that Joe Linton has. I said I felt sorry for Ballard. He had no option but to go for that ball, because if he didn't go for that ball for the own goal, Isak was going to mop it in anyway. But I just thought, we looked in control the entire time. Isak just has ice running through his veins. He took his goal. The goal he took, it's funny, real time, it looked like it was a sitter, right? But actually, it wasn't like the easiest chance, and I think he took it pretty well. And then for the penalty, it was really well executed. And I don't know if you've seen any of the video footage since, but they show the run up, and it's very everything he does makes it look like he's going to go at the keeper's left, and he sweeps it in to the keeper's right. So it's again, very professional, and that's what you expect, I think, of players these days of his caliber. They don't miss penalties. I think if you watch penalty shootouts now, it's very rare that these players miss, because technically they're much better players, than maybe what we remember growing up with. From that point of view, there has been a bit of fallout coming off the back of the game, off the field. So, talk to me about the black and white / black hats bar, and what your feelings were from your perspective on that.
Well, someone's been sacked, haven't they? I don't know much about the staff at the stadium. I know obviously when it comes to the manager, first team coach, whatever you class them as being now, and they're sort of backroom staff. But yeah, someone's been held responsible. Apparently, been sacked. I just thought, what, if we were in the same position, we would have done the same. I think with regards to some of the supporters have gone absolutely ballistic, mental. And, everyone's mentioned with regards to the Canny O'Neill slide when we won at your place in the derby, and how that's got the crowd riled. But apparently there's been, I don't know if this is fact or fiction, with regards to beer purchases. by the your lot, and apparently the card payments didn't go through or something. I've heard otherwise. I don't know what's fact or fiction yet, so I need to get a bit more information on that. If that's true, not only have you come in and you've obviously someone's gone in and took the mick big style, free beer and all to wash it down with that victory. So an absolute sickener.
So, I have got some information on that.
Go on then.
So there's a few guys I know that were in the away end, and I can confirm that the free beer is true. So what happened is I think they pre-poured a lot of the beer after the game, like
Yes.
ready to kind of serve, because they knew that fans were going to be stuck on the ground for a while. Wi-Fi went down, so the card readers stopped working, so they literally couldn't take payment. So they're just like, it's here, it's already poured, and they had to give it out. It's an interesting one with the. So I don't know if you've seen kind of the statement that came from the owner around the Black Cat decoration. But essentially, what's happened is Sunderland have said, look, we want Newcastle to pay to cover up the Sunderland stuff because we're worried it's going to get damaged, or worried that like Newcastle fans could damage. Now, I'm not being funny, right? Corporates in a hospitality bar, like, I mean, I've been in hospitality once myself. It doesn't seem the type of people that are going to go in there and like, kick the place in and vandalize it or whatever else. So first of all, I thought I was quite paranoid by the club generally to think that's something that they needed to do. It then apparently has been approved by the board and the hierarchy. And then what's happened is the pictures have got leaked out, and as soon as the pictures have got leaked out, that's when all hell's broken loose. But I mean, I think to allow like a cross out of Hawaii replaced with a Huawei, and that
Yeah.
kind of thing, it just seemed daft. It seemed like a really silly move. Talk to us about the photo, because I listened to a very brief radio clip that was doing the rounds on Twitter of Marco Gabbiadini saying that Newcastle showed a lack of class by taking that photo in front of the North Stand, in front of the 6,000 travelling supporters. Do you think that's fair?
I was surprised when that happened. I was very surprised. Yes, you expect the team to go and acknowledge the away support, clap them, etc. I know. Does it happen after every away game, but in the changing room, apparently? So I was surprised that it was on the pitch. I don't know if this is true. This is just what I've read in certain places. I heard that Tyndall had a lot to do with it, ushering on the backroom staff from your end, and some of them looked a little bit sheepish, as if to say, "Is he kidding us? Are we doing this?" It was done. You did it. Yeah, I heard Gabbiadini's comments on the subject matter, and a lack of class. Yeah, a lot of people would think that. So, but again, I'm thinking about it from my team's perspective. If we get back in the Premier League anytime in the near future and we win, would we do the same? Will we take the piece? Or yeah, there's a lot of conversations that I've had with my fellow supporters, and some of them are fuming, and some of them are like, "Well, so what?" type thing.
It's so just to kind of add some context. So it's something that Howe started doing now. Obviously, when he took over, we had like, I think we'd played 14 in the league and we had 7 points or something. It was 15 or 16 games before we got a win. When we got that first win, he wanted a photo taken in the changing room, and that happens whether we win at home, whether we win away from home. There's a dressing room photo that normally takes place. Now, there's a couple of exceptions. So there's a couple of times when at the end of the season, the last home game, they've taken the photo in front of the Gallagher end. And this is what I'm kind of getting to. I think first of all, we haven't won in a while. We haven't won in a while away from home. And it's the first time that we've beaten Sunderland in 11 years or 12 years or whatever it is. So I think when you added all those things together, I can see how it happened and why it happened. And I think from a Sunderland point of view, it's a massive compliment, because I think the only other time we do that is we get through to like, a an FA Cup final at Wembley, and we take the photo, or you win the FA Cup and you take the photo in front of the fans. And I think it was about that. I think the other thing that drove it a little bit is you had 6,000 fans that had done a bubble trip on, old school double-decker buses with wet seats. I think the club actually handled that really well. They gave out free scarves, they gave out water, they gave out cereal bars. They had a DJ at the Milburn reception, playing music when people came in. So actually, it was trying to build a bit of atmosphere. And I think they just tried to make the best of that situation. So that bit they handled quite well. And I think it was almost like they wanted to celebrate and almost like round it off by, having that photo. And it's a great photo from a Newcastle fan's point of view, and it is the wallpaper on my laptop now. But no,
Why
but
doesn't that surprise us, John?
no, exactly. But I think I don't think it was done in a deliberate, right, let's really rub their noses in it point of view. I think it was about us more than about having an impact on yourselves. That was my read on it. But I can totally see why people would take pity at it. There's a lot of comments about the result generally, and about how, well, yeah, but of course that should have happened because Bruno gets paid however much a year, and we're paying our squad only 3 or 4 million more than that. And I think what I would say to that is teams have still got to turn up and they've still got to do the job. Now, as we speak, Middlesbrough are beating Chelsea 1-0 in the League Cup. So,
Yeah, I've got it on in the background. Yeah,
yeah,
silence.
that's it. We're ever the professional, so that. And but I think that's that says you have to turn it, you have to do the job, and it doesn't matter who you are or how well rated you are. You don't win games of football on paper. You've got to turn up. You've got to do it. And I think that's, for me, was the impressive thing, was the way that we turned up, and it didn't. It just felt like we were just calm and composed and professional. Did what we needed to do, and you just didn't have an answer for it at all. So let's move on. We've done a lot of talking. You mentioned earlier about Jack Clark, and potentially West Ham are interested. I'm hearing rumoured fees of 20 million. Is that a deal you can walk away from?
With the club's model at present, with regards to buying young players and hopefully bringing them on and then selling them on at a profit, it fits the model, doesn't it? £20 million, a lot of money. We could buy quite a few players with that. But looking at it from how he's performed in the Championship this season, he has been responsible for a lot of goals. His stats are fantastic with regards to, assists, goals. Yes, a lot of penalties, dribbles, play possession in the opposition box. So £20 million on the grand scale of things when it comes to promotion of the Premiership and the riches that brings is just a drop in the ocean. So what do you do from an owner's viewpoint? It's very difficult, very difficult. When the vultures are swooping, the big boys in the Premiership are swooping. £20 million, personally, I wouldn't accept. I would consider him to be the Championship's most informed player this season, player of the season in the Championship, in my opinion. 25 million upwards, which it's a lot of money, but then I think they'd be under a lot of pressure to sell. But I really, really hope they don't. And he seems quite happy. He seems really happy here. And Ian Hart, his agent, again, a former Sunderland player, didn't play for us for long, has basically, said he's happy where he is. So we just have to wait and see. Just have to wait and see.
It's I think, I'll be honest with you, right? I think he was anonymous on Saturday. I think that was his big audition. I think he fluffed his lines.
He really did, yeah.
And don't get us wrong, like, he's up against Kieran Trippier, who's one of the best right backs in the country, right? And then behind him, you've got Cher, and then if you got any further, you've got Sven Botman, who's just a Rolls Royce of a player. So he didn't have an easy task. And then you've got you've got Longstaff works hard and makes it difficult for you. All those things aside, right? Jack Clark's going to come up against better players in the Premier League week in, week out. I think if you're offered that money, and this is me looking from the outside, the biggest thing you're missing is, it's a player you sold, right? You sold Ross Stewart for 10 million, didn't you? And I think you haven't replaced him. And you missed that target man. You needed that kind of you need the ability to almost flip what you did on Saturday, and you didn't have that. And there's going to be games in the Championship where you're going to need to almost have that option to revert. And I think if you were to sell Clark and you were able to bring in a player, say, for about, striker for about 10, 15, and I'm not saying you'd get him, but someone like a Danny Ings or someone like that, of at least those kind of goal scoring qualities or that target man quality, someone, and again, this is not me saying I think that you would attract him or that he would be interested. I don't know, right? But I think that's what you need to look for, because I think then that gives you that. But it's whether your board are up for doing that, or whether they're like, no, we need to try and bring in a striker for like near a 5 million, and then working on him improving his value, so then we can continue the sustainable model. And you do need to be a sustainable club, because Ellis Short didn't run it like that, and look what happened.
Oh, yeah. I think Rusin did quite well on Saturday. He was running after lost causes. He had no service. He worked his socks off, and the fans love him because of that. And he obviously got off the mark the other week, which I was very happy about. But yeah, we striker wise, we haven't played with a recognised striker for a long time, up until the last couple of games, and it's been evident that we really need a proven goal scorer. The going rate now, even sort of in the Championship, is, if you're looking for someone who's going to score 15 goals plus, you're talking like you say, Ross Stewart, 10 million pounds. I mean, he's injured again, isn't he? Bless him, at Southampton. But yeah, some of the young lads he's brought in, I haven't seen enough of them to make judgment. They've come on, they've tried, but again, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Bale does in the January transfer window. We've been rumoured with signed a few strikers who don't fit in with the model age-wise. So I don't know where we'll go from with that, because they're going to have no sell-on value. But we need goals. We need goals desperately from the striker position. Players are weighing in from other areas of the pitch, mostly Clark, obviously. So yeah, we desperately need a proven Championship striker, which is easier said than done when it comes to signing one.
And I know it didn't look like we needed many signings on Saturday, so I'll not go into that. But I think we desperately do need that number 6. It's been talked about quite a lot, that defensive midfielder. There's a lot of talk about Calvin Phillips apparently where now in the box seat to sign him on loan. I think he'd be a cracking signing. He needs minutes if he's going to get in the England squad, and if he's going to do the things he wants to go on to do. But if we can get a loan, even with an option to buy rather than an obligation, gives us an opportunity to really assess that and see whether he can fit in with, if you had him, Bruno and Joe Linton, or him, Bruno and Longstaff, and what that looks like. And I think it just, and we were much better organised on Saturday at doing it in terms of stopping the counter attack, but that's what's really hurt us, certainly in the last couple of months. And if we're going to look to go on this trajectory where we hopefully qualify for Europe and go get back into the Champions League and whatever else, you need a player like that can do it. And those players aren't normally cheap, and they're not easy to come by. I mean, what's Caicedo, like 115 million? Enzo was around that as well. Like, it's silly money now.
Crazy
For
money.
defensive, crazy money. That's the term I was looking for. You think I think back 13, 14 years ago, we signed Czech Tiote for like a couple of million quid. And he was a really good player for us. But we need someone of that ilk that can just almost be that extra little layer of protection before you get to that back four. But I think in terms of January, I think that's probably what we look to do. I potentially think we still look for a goalkeeper and look at an option there, because although I think Dubravka has had a couple of really good confidence boosting performances, clean sheet on Saturday, Monday, yes, he conceded 4 goals against Liverpool, but he made about 11 saves or something ridiculous. It's not his fault that we lost that game. So I still think we miss Nick Pope massively. And we can't, if he ends up getting injured again, we haven't got somebody that can come in and be at that same level. And it is a difference in quality, and I hope that doesn't get us found out if we leave it alone, because I don't think we're going to have Nick Pope back until probably late April if we're having back at all this season. So I think for me, they'd be the 2 areas that if I'm Newcastle's recruitment staff, that I'm prioritising, and then I think maybe look, if we need a winger, look at that in the summer when hopefully the market's a little bit kinder. Okay, so we've talked a bit about the transfer market. Next weekend, massive game for you guys.
Huge. Ipswich have shocked me this season, actually. I knew they spent a bit of money before the season started, that, fresh cash injection, as it were. They've signed some good players. I mean, I've got just a horrible feeling if Broadhead plays, if he's fit. I think he is, isn't he? He'll come back and haunt us, which always happens with Sunderland. So a massive game, and the atmosphere at Portman Road, it's old school stadium, isn't it? So yeah, they've created a great atmosphere down there this season. It's been a fortress. I've watched them play a couple of times, play some great football. They've got a good manager as well, a very good manager. They're playing attractive football. The support are getting behind them. So it'll be interesting to see how we do react after the defeat at the weekend, because it was a big one. It dented the pride. They're only young lads, and I'm hoping they'll dust themselves down and be able. I'd be happy with a draw. I'd be more than happy with a draw. If we get a win, I'd be absolutely ecstatic. So it'll be interesting to see how they bounce back. Fingers crossed they can dust themselves down and crack on, because possession-wise on Saturday, the stats were wow. Yeah, it's normally us in the Championship who have the most possession-based football. We are very patient. In my opinion, we're a bit slow getting it forward a lot of the time. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how we get on. It'll be hopefully a very good game. Like I say, two very good matches on Saturday for both sets of supporters.
Absolutely. So in terms of, because you lost to them at home, first game of the season, 2-1. So what's your prediction? And in terms of, do you expect similar lineup to what played on Saturday? Like, is that kind of I mean, I don't watch you regularly, right? So I mean, what is that your strongest lineup that you put out on Saturday?
I think he's still deciding. I mean, AJ's come back. He's put him in there. He's done well. He's done really well. He had a really bad injury. I thought it might have affected him. It hasn't affected his confidence. He's a good young player. He's passionate about the club as well. That's the difference now with all these young players we've brought in compared to in the past, that they're passionate about the club. They get the club. So I know he hasn't changed the first 11 for the last couple of games, but I think depending on who's available, he maybe needs to do that on Saturday, because we did look devoid of ideas on Saturday gone. So sideways, backwards. Yes, I know we're playing Newcastle Premiership squad, but I'd be interested. I'd be interested to see what change he makes, because I still don't think he's fully decided on his first 11. So we'll wait and see. But I'm predicting. Well, my heart would say hopefully 1-1, but possibly 2-1 Ipswich. But I'm hoping for 1-1.
Okay, 1-1 or 2-1 the wrong way for yourselves.
Yeah.
Obviously we've got a big game as well, playing the world champions Manchester City at St James's Park. I mean, not that I think that's much of a tournament, because you're basically in the final if you win the Champions League, so it's one game or two games. Is it a semi-final and the final to play? But still, like it's hardly the whole tournament, is it? Anyway, I'm digressing. De Bruyne came back on Saturday, didn't he? Of course, which probably wasn't something I wanted to see. And the rumor is that Haaland might be fit enough to play on Saturday as well. So again, this is not amazing timing for us. What I would say is that with Nottingham Forest aside, I think we've been the better side when we played teams at home at St James's Park this year. Even against Liverpool, we were 1-0 up. They were down 10 men. We should have seen that game out. We didn't. We kind of threw it away. But I just feel like at home we're a totally different proposition. I think when we're the big occasion, and we showed that on Saturday, whether we want to admit it or not, Saturday was a massive occasion for a lot of reasons. But ultimately, it was a derby game. and the players were up for that, and they'll be up for Manchester City after that result. Going into our what they want to call a winter break, we'll get a week off the following week to hopefully recharge and reset a little bit, and hopefully get some injured players back as well, and do a bit of transfer work behind the scenes. But I think Man City are desperate for points though, and I think that's probably the thing that's gonna mean we're gonna struggle, because they're not in a position where if they drop many more points, they're going to start taking themselves out of the title race. It is getting to that stage. I'm going to go 2-1 Man City. I think we'll give a really good fist of it, but I think they'll just have a little bit too much for us, if I'm honest. But I think we'll give it a good go. It's certainly not one where they can turn up and expect there not to be any jeopardy and to pick up a result. Okay, so what I will say is thank you very much again to Anth for his time again this evening, and thanks to everyone again for listening. We are going to be back next week. We'll be reviewing the weekend's games, and we're going to look forward to Sunderland's Friday night trip to Hull and discuss what Newcastle need to do to get past Fulham in the 4th round of the FA Cup. This has been Northeast Divide podcast. Thank you and goodbye.